My chocolate peanut butter cake recipe is easy and delicious, with chocolate and peanut butter flavors that are really strong and go together perfectly. This cake is one of my favorites. Let's go over the ingredients. In this bowl, I have one 15.25 ounce box of white cake mix and one 3.9 ounce box of instant chocolate pudding. To that, I'm going to add half a cup of unsweetened cocoa powder, 40 grams, and to that, I've already added half a cup of boiling water, 3 teaspoons of instant coffee, 4 grams, and to that, I've also already added half a cup of boiling water. Off to the side here, I have an extra half a cup of room temperature water, 3 large eggs, half a cup of sour cream, 120 grams. I'm using full fat, but you can use reduced or fat-free. A quarter cup of canola oil, 1 tablespoon of vinegar, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. To make this cake, all we have to do is mix the ingredients together in the bowl and then pour them into my 8-inch cake pans that are off to the side. So, like I said, all we literally have to do is pour the cake mix and instant chocolate pudding in this bowl. I am using white cake mix, but you can definitely use yellow. This is instant chocolate pudding. I am using chocolate fudge, but any sort of instant chocolate pudding is fine. I said 3.9 ounces. And here is the unsweetened cocoa powder that already has been added to hot water. So what I did is I put the half a cup of unsweetened cocoa powder in this mason jar, and then I put half a cup of water in the microwave, like that over there, and I microwaved it on high, uncovered, for 1 minute and 15 seconds. Then I added that to the cocoa powder and stirred. That is to bloom the cocoa powder, to add it to something hot, hot water or hot oil, to help bring out the flavor. And I will scrape that off camera. Like I said, the coffee and the cocoa powder, they've been cooling down off to the side, so you don't want to add them when they are still hot because you don't want to cook the eggs. So I'm going to add the eggs last. I'll add the oil, vinegar, and don't be afraid of the vinegar. It is not going to make your cake taste vinegary. It's just going to help create an acidic environment. The vanilla. I said half a cup of sour cream, room temperature. You can use buttermilk if you want. Like I said, I'm using full fat, but I've used fat-free in the past, and honestly, I don't think there was much of a difference. The eggs. I've done a pretty good job of scraping everything into the bowl, but I'm just going to use this extra half cup of water to help loosen some of this chocolate in here. Get it into the cake. If you've ever worked with cocoa powder, it's very dry. So if you add cocoa powder to a cake recipe, you might have to add a little more oil or butter or water or something like that. A little more extra liquid. And now that all the ingredients are in the bowl, I'm just going to use my electric mixer to combine. But you could definitely do this by hand. I just finished mixing the batter. It took no more than 30 to 60 seconds, I think. One thing you might want to do before turning on your electric hand mixer, just stir the ingredients together a little bit so that when you turn on your mixer, the dry ingredients don't go flying through the air, like in my case. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to pour the batter into my prepared cake pans. And you do not have to do this, but I'm going to use my food scale to make sure that they are equal. My oven is preheated to 325 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm going to put these in uncovered. I will let you know for how long. My cake layers just came out of the oven. They were in at 325 degrees Fahrenheit, uncovered, for 50 minutes. 50. They smell incredible. Now it's time to put the frosting on the cake. I took the cake layers out of the pans, put them on flat plates like this one, wrapped them in plastic, and then put them in the refrigerator for about 12 hours. I didn't have time to put the cake together earlier, but now I am ready. I'm using the same frosting that I used last year, my peanut butter cream cheese frosting. But what's different about it this year is that, number one, I'm using crunchy peanut butter instead of creamy. They didn't have creamy, the brand I was looking for at the store. And compared to last year, the frosting looks a little creamier, a little smoother, a little bit more velvety. So now I am putting the frosting on the cake. Probably gonna put about a third in the middle here. Then I'm gonna put on the top layer. But I wanted to show you that I am using crunchy peanut butter in the frosting this year. And also it looks, at least as of now, it looks a little bit smoother than it did last year. And I think that's because I didn't overbeat it. After I frosted the cake, I put it into the refrigerator for about 10 hours, and then I finally cut the first slice and took a bite. And when I did, once again, my chocolate cake with peanut butter cream cheese frosting was absolutely delicious. If you follow me here on my channel, you know that I usually just make recipes once, but this cake is so good that I make it once a year. First off, the cake. The cake itself has a very strong chocolate flavor because of the quarter cup of unsweetened cocoa powder and the chocolate pudding. The bit of coffee isn't necessary, but I highly recommend it because it brings out the chocolate flavor even more. So with the generous amount of cocoa powder and the bit of coffee, the chocolate flavor is very strong. Honestly, it's almost like a dark chocolate cake. In fact, without the frosting, the cake is sweet, but not overly sweet, and it has a little bit of bitterness in the background that reminds me of dark chocolate. Even though the cake itself is good, it's the frosting that really takes it to the next level. I think it's the tanginess in the cream cheese that really brings out the peanut butter flavor, as well as the chocolate flavor in the chocolate cake. The frosting is sweeter than the cake is, so the frosting helps to balance out the bit of bitterness in the cake from all of the cocoa powder. Honestly, everything just comes together in absolute perfection, and as you can see, now that I'm holding a slice up to the camera, it looked incredible. In regards to textures, the cake was fluffy but also fudgy at the same time, so I think it would be a good middle ground for those who like a fluffy chocolate cake or brownie and those who like a fudgy chocolate cake or brownie. The frosting's texture was a bit of a contradiction as well. It was thick and creamy but also light and airy, probably because I whipped a good amount of air into it when I was blending everything together. Although I used crunchy peanut butter this year, I honestly couldn't tell that much of a difference. There were little bits of peanuts here and there, but in terms of flavor, I thought it was almost identical. Like I said, I've already made this cake multiple times here on my channel, so I'll include a link to the frosting recipe in the description box below. And for the frosting, if you can find peanut butter that lists roasted or dry roasted peanuts as the main ingredient, that's the best because the flavor will be a lot stronger. Like I already said, this chocolate peanut butter cake was absolutely incredible. I normally don't repeat recipes, but this is one that I repeat at least once a year. It's probably one of my favorite cakes, if not my favorite. My only critique of this cake is that there were some spots where there was a slight gummy layer near the bottom. I think that's because I blended the ingredients for too long on too high of a speed. So be gentle when you mix the ingredients together. I know I have at least one subscriber who loves this cake just as much as I do. So if you give this recipe a try, I know you'll love it. As always, thanks for watching. See you next time.